Greetings, chess friends. Today, we are going to see an important strategic concept. And you can see here, it even starts on the very first move. So when you play d4, you are establishing a control of the dark squares, e5 and c5. And we're going to really look at the strategy around this type of structure today. You can easily see how this came to be. Knight f3, knight e5, and a common theme with, of course, many black pieces all around. So let's take a look at the kind of model game that seems to occur, and we have a lot of strong grandmasters today. This game was played by Pillsbury, again, one of the top players around the turn of the 20th century, and this opening looks perfectly modern for today's standards. Bishop e7, e3. And like I said at the beginning, a lot of this is going to come in the queen pawn openings, but overall, that e5 square is a great square for your knight. It's in the center, it's protected. Often we're going to get these closed games, and the knight is so well placed. And one other thing I'll mention is if anyone ever captures that knight, often f4, there it is. If anyone captures this knight, often the f pawn takes back, and it helps so much with your king and rook castled that the rook will use that open f file to actually participate in the attack. So let's see how this game goes. Incredibly smooth, and it's hard to say that black has done anything wrong. Really, I mean, again, this game is over 100 years ago, played in exactly 1900, but black hasn't really done anything wrong, and it seems that white has a nice, comfortable position. I didn't even mention the ability to make the rook lift, which we see quite a bit today. So c4 gets that kind of strategic mistake question mark. You like the pressure. Black likes the pressure here, leaning on the center. And we just step back and no harm done to white's position. A6, obviously black is going for this queenside expansion, queen f3. And you can feel the bishop, this bishop, now the queen, and this knight is kind of the central figure in this attack. B5, but this is all just too slow and not dangerous enough, not consequential enough. Okay, now we have real pressure. The queen and bishop are lining up on h7. You can feel this knight is hit twice, and this bishop lining up with bishop and queen. So the storm clouds are gathering. G6, a weakening move. I think when you're less experienced at chess, you think, I can just play the pawn move and that stops it. But you are creating big gaps, especially now on these dark squares. Here, f5, using that pawn to kind of spearhead the attack, cracking open some kingside and also opening the f file. Notice the bishop also bolstering all this, sacrifices everywhere. White is winning. b4, there's a knight hanging. You have to move it. No, he plays f takes g6, gets a brilliancy and a really nice one. Let's quickly just look, what if he takes the knight, which he did not. There's actually mate coming here, and all you have to do is remove this knight, and queen can take h7 checkmate. So bishop might be a tad slower. It looks like rook takes f6, and if you take, brilliant, and if you take, then bishop takes, and we're threatening. Queen takes pawn on the next move. So black is toast here. Real game, f takes g6. He played h takes g6 and queen h4, intensifying the pressure on this knight. Notice our knight is still here, but it's about to really make a big impact. And the rook, queen, and bishop all focused right here on the knight, and we can remove one of the defenders. That's really the key. After b takes, again, this attack on the queen side just doesn't amount to enough. It's not a checkmate threat. Knight takes, knight removes all the defenders we need. And here, queen takes, rook takes. I love it. Bishop takes would just be winning a minor piece, and life is good. But rook takes is even better. You cannot take this back, as checkmate is just unstoppable. And obviously, black did not. A5 here, certainly not a miss. The engine wants c takes b2, and just rook f1. White is completely winning. A5, rook f1 anyway, and here another brilliancy, and there's even a third one coming. Bishop takes. He does accept this sacrifice, and it ends nicely. Rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes, brilliancy and resignation. Let's see what would happen here if Black had captured and played on. Queen h8. Notice we're down a rook here. And this pawn is so far advanced, so it's checkmate or bust here. You can't go to e7, so only move. Check. And now you're losing the queen. And if you play forward, this is checkmate. If you play to e8, this is checkmate. And if you play to f8, we just take the queen. And then we'll checkmate. So white wins. Fantastic game. Let's keep going. Actually, this next one is really probably the most historically significant game. Amazing game here by Steinitz. Let's take a look. He is with the white pieces. Now, I mentioned that it doesn't usually come from the e4 openings, but we'll have our original position today like this, just without the e-pawn. Back to the game, knight c3, a little Scandinavian, and let's just quickly get to our position with the knight on e5. There it is, knight e5, a great second move. Now, don't play knight f3, knight e5 consecutively or anything. Notice that white is clearly developing their pieces, getting their king to safety. Then comes the second knight jump and f4. Again, I love the central fundamentals here. If knight takes knight, just pawn takes, and that opens the f-file. This game is really a classic, and even some notes here from Kasparov. They go into very deep analysis. Again, the rook lift. And very deep analysis that I'm not going to get into, but this is a sensational game. G6 and G4. I hate that they give it a question mark. This game move really is something. Engine wants rook f1. Okay, good fundamentals. But G4 makes for a fantastic game. He plays f takes G4. And the amount of analysis coming here is pages and pages long. I'll skip to the cliff notes. The very best move is actually queen takes g4. And the game rumbles on, for example, knight takes knight, and even d takes. This is just a huge attack here with queen, rook, bishop, and the pawns. That didn't happen, though. In the real game, he gave us a show. Rook takes h7. Really stunning move. And again, our friend the knight here on e5, just pointing in all directions. It gets taken here, but I think the damage has been done, leaving the rook. Can you believe this? Capture and capture. Here again, we are down a full rook. White down a full rook for one pawn. But the problem is really this. The pawn here is under attack, nearly checkmate. Now the rook is guarding it, but also we have this nice threat. Notice our rook will enter the game like previous videos we've seen, that extra attacker just tipping the balance. So I love the vision of this bishop staring at the king. This pawn is pinned. It's funny that it's also pointing this direction. A nice variation coming up here. What would you play here? What would you play? You're about to blunder. Be careful. Queen h6. If you capture this, you would be tragically informed that you are pinned. After you might grab the queen and play checkmate and realize you are pinned here. So he does not take queen h6, a very good move. Queen h7 and queen h3. That stops the king from running, a theme we see all the time. Rook f1. And queen e6. Looks like here, instead of rook f1, e6, checkmated a little faster. King e8, queen h7, this type of idea. But game goes on here at queen e6. Still a nice finish. The bishop is pinned. Bishop takes g6, and he gives us a show here. Queen takes g6, king d8, rook f8. And that, again, the same type of idea. This is pinned to the king, so you cannot capture the rook. The only legal move is blocking with the queen, and that is checkmate. Steinitz, unbelievable. Marshall here, a similar one to the first one. Let's again quickly get to it. Back to the queen pawn openings. And again, a lot of you might be comfortable with this type of opening, this type of structure. Black is going to get this bishop one way or another, but he chooses to do it like this, landing the knight on e5. This also comes with a threat, so that knight has to waste a move. Notice how hard it is to extract this knight. You don't have always that natural move f6, and it's just weakening your kingside anyway. Castles, castles, and if you've been paying attention, you should know probably here, f4. A good strengthening move in the center. You allow the rook lift. Again, if this does get taken, let's say bishop here, you want to be taking back with the f pawn. He plays g6, remember, a weakening move. Our pieces can now get in, especially on h6 on the dark squares, or g5. All the dark squares weakened. Queen f3, rook c1, and queen h3. Again, not a threat of checkmate just yet, similar to the Pillsbury game, but now maybe indicating he's going to go something like this. g4, a really nice move. The pawn storm is so useful here. I like this move too, and Marshall uses all the pieces. It was a great attacker. The rook here, which could be left out of the game sometimes in these type of attacks, actually gets right involved and is a key player. g5, that move looks a little funny, like we're almost shutting down any potential pawn breaks, but notice the knight now has the square coming backwards. Rook f3, and our beloved knight gets traded. He takes with the f pawn. Again, opening this file to a backwards pawn is always going to be 99%. You want to take with that f pawn. Here, don't play en passant here. A terrible mistake, as queen takes queen hangs the queen. So h5 does freeze things for a moment, but this is a target ripe for sacrifice. And which piece of ours is not helping? The knight. He comes back with the knight and avoids a check on the back rank here, but ready to sacrifice this knight. Remember, it was here, doing nothing. Now, a clean sacrifice. And this game's essentially over. Marshall, even a nice move here, stopping the king's escape. And after f5, we do end up with an en passant. E takes f6, and black resigns. I love the fact that he resigned after en passant. This is a horrendous position for black, and he resigned not a moment too soon. So really another nice one here. And last one for today, the legend Botvinnik. If you're liking what you see here, but maybe you don't play d4 or you're not really familiar, you can also get these type of positions with black. I hear Botvinnik playing the Dutch. Okay, and this structure here, again, known as that stone wall structure, but it's very comfortable for the knight to jump to the center. And if it does get taken, you take with the f pawn, opening the rook. So let's see. Botvinnik sliding his queen out this way. And yes, this bishop will always be a problem. Notice how the pawns are configured. It's natural this bishop is going to suffer. It can't really get anywhere. So if you are able to free that bishop or trade it, that's a great strategic achievement. So that's why e takes, and it does help this bishop potentially wake up one day. Knight e4. And this game is unique, as this knight does even get extracted after f3 right away. White did as much as they could to get this knight out of here. Very first move. And we trade. But actually keep in mind that because a knight reappears there. A little foreshadowing here. But like I mentioned, when you do play a move like f3 or f6, you are weakening around your king. And so f4 by black really is trying to exploit that, chip away at the king side here. Notice now a threat to capture the pawn. Knight f1, a good defensive square. Rook f7, and knight f6. Notice this bishop, which was dormant with all the pawns in the way. And we actually have quite an attacking team here brewing. This rook, even once the bishop moves, could slide over quickly and really participate. This has actually been a well-navigated attack. No great options, so he just develops naturally. Bishop e1, that hits the queen. Our beloved knight is gone, but a nice attack is about to occur. h5, I love that type of move. Using here the pawn. White plays f, where our queen has to move. Rook f2. White is doing well to defend himself, but after h4, he thought he had the counter strike bishop f3. And Floor was a very good player here, but overlooked a just crushing blow. If the queen had to move, then this maybe retreat here or h3, you can keep attacking. White might be getting out of all this, but he doesn't move the queen here. H takes g3. Floor, very strong master. So this was a bit perplexing that he missed this tactic. Not too tough to see, just a direct capture. The queen gets taken. And then the rook. You have to keep an accurate material count. King g2 and then the bishop. When the dust settles and we count up the material, you'll notice that a rook and a rook, those kind of offset. So for the queen, here black has, we have equal number of pawns. Black has a knight, rook, and bishop. That's 11 points versus the queen, which is 9. Black is winning. Black is winning, and even strategically winning at that. King takes f2, knight e4, and I love that we return home to e4 and cap off our lesson with white resigning. Pretty amazing here. Any king move is going to be even subject to getting this captured. Everything else is completely winning. No need to even do this. Notice you cannot take due to knight f2. But there's just no hope here. Any general strategic good moves should be winning here for black. For example, just to hammer home the point, what would you do here as white? Move your king, of course, but you make a king move. Okay, bishop f5. Now, black has very, very little to do, so you can feel the difficulty, and black is just now material. The allure of the queen is not always so real. So, okay. Hope everyone enjoyed this one. A little different here, strategic games. And I actually have another game that I'm going to make another video of with Mikhail Tal coming up here with the same strategic concept. Looked like it was worth its own video. But look for that here, and really appreciate the views, everybody. Channel's been growing, and we're going to keep pumping out great chess content. Thanks again, and have a great day.